So in this video, we're going to talk about how to perform operations with fractions. So remember the parts of a fraction. Remember the number that's on the top of the fraction is called the numerator, and the number that's on the bottom is called the denominator. So when you multiply fractions, you're going to multiply the numerators together to form the numerator of the answer, and then you multiply the denominators together to form the denominator of the answer. So if we're doing 2 over 7 times 3 over 5, I'm going to first multiply 2 times 3, which gives me 6, so that goes in the numerator. And then I do 7 times 5, which gives me 35, and that goes in the denominator. So 6 over 35 is my answer. If we're multiplying fractions, you also always want to check if you can simplify first. You can simplify if there's a number that will evenly divide a numerator and a denominator. So if we're looking at 2 over 9 times 3 over 6, we'll notice that 2 will evenly divide both 2 and 6. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce those by dividing both by 2. So here I have 1, and then here I have 3. And now you can see I have a 3 and a 9. Both of those are divisible by 3, so I'm going to reduce by dividing by 3. So I have 1, and this is going to reduce to 3. So now this means I'm actually multiplying the two fractions 1 over 3 times 1 over 3. So I multiply 1 times 1, which gives me 1. 3 times 3 gives me 9, so 1 over 9 is my final answer. So you can also divide fractions. So you may have heard of this as the keep, change, flip method, or you may have heard people calling this multiply by the reciprocal. Either way, it's the same method. What you do is if you call it keep, change, flip, you keep the first fraction. So here I would keep 2 over 5, change the division to a multiply, and then flip the second fraction. So I'm going to turn it upside down, or in other words, find the reciprocal. And so that means the numerator becomes the denominator becomes the numerator. So instead of dividing 2 over 5 divided by 4 over 7, I'm doing 2 over 5 times 7 over 4. Well, now I can actually simplify these fractions before multiplying because 2 goes into both 2 and 4. So I have 1 and 2. And so now I'm going to multiply the numerators together. So I have 1 times 7, which is 7, over 5 times 2, which is 10. So 7 over 10 is my final answer. So remember, you can also add and subtract fractions. So to add and subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. So that means the denominator has to be the same on both fractions. If the denominator is the same, you're going to add or subtract the numerators as indicated and keep the denominator the same. Remember, you always want to simplify the final answer if possible. So if we're doing 7 over 9 minus 4 over 9, we have the same denominator, so I'm just going to go ahead and write down the denominator. Then I do 7 minus 4, which is 3. Well, 3 over 9 I can actually reduce because 3 will go into 3, leaving me with 1. 3 goes into 9, leaving me with just 3. So this is going to reduce now to 1/3, and so that is my final answer. So to add and subtract fractions where you don't have a common denominator, you need to go ahead and first find the common denominator. The common denominator is going to be the lowest common multiple of both denominators. So in this case, we have 4 and 6. So what you want to do is you want to think about the multiples of 4 and the multiples of 6 and find the lowest one that they have in common. I know a lot of you will be tempted to just go ahead and multiply 4 times 6 together, but if you write out the multiples, you'll see that that's not the lowest common multiple that they have. Because if we do the multiples of 4, you can see we have 4, 8, 12, etc. And for 6, we have 6, 12, 18, etc. So you can see that 12 is actually the lowest common multiple that they have. So we're going to go ahead and turn our denominators into that. So we want to turn both our denominators into 12. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply each fraction by some form of 1. What I mean by a form of 1 is any fraction that has the numerator and denominator exactly the same is a form of 1. So in order to turn this 4 into a 12, I need to multiply this by 3 over 3. And so that's going to give me the new fraction, 3 over 12. So for my 5 over 6, I'm going to multiply both the numerator and denominator by 2, and that's going to now turn this fraction into 10 over 12. So now when I subtract these, I do 3 minus 10, which gives me negative 7. So I have negative 7 over 12, which is now my final answer. So remember, to multiply fractions, you're going to multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. To divide fractions, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. To add or subtract fractions, make sure you first have a common denominator.